the new chair of the assembly session. And so you notice how we had a very seamless, although right now is a little seamful, transition between chairs. Well, what if we could also seamlessly transition between images? This next speaker, who may look familiar, Ticha Sethapakdi, who's also a last-year PhD student on the job market, will be presenting FabObscura today. Ticha, take it away.
Thank you, and thank you for being my substitute chair for this session. So hello, everyone. I'm Ticha. I'm very excited to present FabObscura, a computational design and fabrication system for making interactive barrier grid animations. So in the 19th century, long before modern cinematography, engineers and craftsmen developed a range of analog techniques for depicting motion. And a technique that was developed in the late 1800s that's still used today is called barrier grid animation. And the basic principle behind barrier grid animation is that you have an interlaced image that encodes many strips of animation frames and a striped barrier mask. So these two layers are precisely constructed such that when you place the barrier over the interlaced image and move it along the interlacing direction, it plays the animation. So in this case, we're interlacing along the x-axis, so horizontal movement advances the animation. And this same principle actually works on a range of interactions. So sliding, as we saw before, view-dependent effects, and rotations. So despite their simple construction, barrier grid animations actually have a lot of potential to function as sort of passive analog interfaces. But you may notice that these animations have a very limited visual vocabulary. So even though you can design a variety of animations and interactions, existing processes for making barrier grid animations only support sort of straight line barrier patterns, because that's just how people did it since the 1800s. So what FabObscura does is that it investigates how we can raise their expressive ceiling by introducing new kinds of barrier geometries, and I have some samples that are hopefully being passed around the room right now. And I guess just to step back, why might we want to even do this to start with? And what's really interesting is that barrier masks are often viewed as these undesirable parts of barrier grid animations, because by design, they're just obscuring the image that you really want to look at. And unfortunately, you can't avoid having a barrier in a barrier grid animation, so you might as well try to make them look pretty. So, just as an example, adding a simple curvature to this animation's barrier creates the effect of a vanishing point. So I feel like this really breathes life into these animations. So if we can instead consider barriers as part of the design space rather than something to be ignored, maybe we can breathe life into these animations. So to understand how to raise the expressive ceiling of barrier grid animations, we will have to understand how they even work from first principles. So we can do this by identifying some canonical properties that any valid animation must satisfy. So from kind of studying all of these different barrier grid animation forms, we see that they boil down to three key properties: seriality, which reveals animation frames in order; periodicity, which loops the animation; and discreteness, which ensures that at most one frame is fully visible at a time. So together, these properties provide a conceptual framework on the space of valid barrier patterns. And again, this applies to all types of barrier grid animations. So now that we've defined the canonical properties, we can use them to derive a sort of general parameterization for barrier patterns. And I won't have time to walk through the full derivation, but essentially our canonical properties imply that we can represent a barrier as a repeated pattern unit. So for example, if you have a traditional sliding animation, each unit is a straight line with thickness equal to the interlacing resolution, or the width of each strip in the interlaced image. And these units are stacked along the axis of motion. So in this example, it is the y-axis. And then once you fill in the barrier, the transparency distribution of the units corresponds to the number of frames in the animation. So if you have an n-frame animation, the barrier is essentially alternating between a single transparent unit and n-1 opaque units. So what makes a pattern valid? For a pattern to be valid, notice that units cannot cross each other. So if you consider a sliding animation that moves along the y-axis, this is the same as saying that each unit has to be uniquely identifiable at any x position. So any vertical line passing through the barrier intersects each unit exactly once. But note that this is the same as passing the vertical line test in mathematics, which, just as a refresher, is a test to determine whether a curve or a line represents a valid function. So what this implies is that we can actually reduce the space of valid barrier grid animations to the space of valid mathematical functions, which is actually pretty significant because before this, we thought that barrier grid animations can only be made with straight lines, but actually we can make any barrier grid animation from a mathematical function which represents an essentially infinite space. So for traditional animations, this function is just a constant. But now we can parameterize the barrier with any valid math function, like this modulated triangle wave or this irregular looking sinusoidal product. And of course, right now, all of these constructions assume that we're moving along the y-axis. So to support other directions of motions, all we just have to do is apply a rotation to the pattern. So rotating the patterns by 90 degrees changes the direction of motion from vertical to horizontal. And these examples also assume the functions are in the Cartesian coordinate space. But the same principles also hold for polar functions. So in this case, each radial line in the pattern follows a path defined by a function f, which controls its local turning angle based on how far it is from the center. So as you move outward, f determines how much the line is bending at each step. So for example, in the normal radial animations, f is equal to 0, and the lines are straight. But if you set it to a non-zero constant, the lines can start to curve and spiral outward from the center. So to summarize, we can parameterize a barrier with 3 properties: the unit function f, which determines the shape of each unit; the thickness t, which is the width of each unit in the stack; and the direction theta, which is the direction of motion that you're interacting with the animation. So these properties define the design space of barrier grid animations. So based on the properties that we identified, we prototyped a computational design tool for authoring and interacting with animations from our parameterization. And since the parameterization works with all animation types, users can just move between variants with low friction. So they only have to enter a function once, and then they'll be able to see how the animation looks under each representation. So what's great about barrier grid animations is that we can easily just make them with standard fabrication equipment. So in our case, we just use the standard inkjet printer to make a wide range of applications. So this is a dynamic coaster, and the concept is that you can adjust it to complement the beverage that's being served. And we can even take advantage of existing mechanisms in objects. So here we have a jar design that animates as the user opens it, and I have another jar design that I think is being passed around right now. And here we take advantage of the clock mechanism to make this analog dynamic display. And what's also interesting is that our parameterization can even support animation types that didn't really exist before. So in this design, we're actually encoding multiple animations, so like an animation within an animation. So when you slide the barrier left to right, you rotate the model, but when you slide it up and down, you can switch between the model that's being rotated. And it even works if you wanted to composite different animation types. So this is another nested animation that actually combines two different types. So you have a view-dependent effect, which animates the animal in the middle. But we also have a sliding mechanism to switch between the animations that are being displayed. So to summarize, FabObscura demonstrates how we can raise the expressive ceiling for barrier grid animations. And barrier grid animations may be considered a niche art form, but we hope that maybe by expanding what's possible with barrier grid animations, we might be able to expand what's possible with the barriers that exist on or around us. So let's go forth and beautify them. Thank you. Happy to answer any questions. And yes, I am also on the job market.
Are there any questions that exist? I guess one question I have is, have you also explored this among beyond just inkjet printing, but also things like polyjet printing or lenticular designs where you can have maybe both a simultaneous motion effect, but then also a directional effect due to a lens or a curvature of the material?
Yeah, that's a great question. So far we mostly explored inkjet printing our designs. We also did a small prototype with 3D printing, and I think that's also an interesting direction to explore. But yeah, I think that would be an interesting new direction. Yes.
Okay, great. Let's give a round of applause for Ticha.